Let there be light, and there was light. Okay, so we are back on looking at the 14 gods. Now we are only looking at the first letter of each god's vibration, the expression. I like to say the expression number, the expression value. So with the breathed God, for instance, and the blessed God, of course, we have two bees. Now, that makes sense. You need to have two bees to really get the beehive going, or to create more, whatever it is. Okay, so I have had this wonderful I just remember there was something I meant to add in my M, which the M's gods, was looking at the vibration, but we'll cover this here. So the bees, for instance, have, this is the bee. As I have said, because we are working by the sacrifice template. The sacrifice template was devised according to, of course, the sacrifice of Jesus Christ around the Last Supper. And it was the whole scenarios going on and taking place. So there were 12 disciples. We all learn of 12 disciples. And of the 12 disciples, and Christ would be 13 at the table. This is where, in this section here, under the 2 section, we learn this is the bucket or the basket, or the table would be there as well. There was so much we could attribute to this second column, where Christ was recruiting his disciples in twos. I'm not sure it was all of them, but certainly in twos, to my observation and or recollection, I should say, of the scriptures. But the B is very crucial here, where that is representing bonding. As I say, it's where people bond. It's where partnership is formed, union, marriage, the B and 2, whatever, unity, agreement. All happens here, and that is with the B. But back to Christ's scenario of 12 and him being 13 at the table. The crucial thing of all of this that we have learned is when Christ said, which is what Christianity is based on, that he died of his flesh to save humankind. So all could be saved, is that when you break off the bread, remember me. Now, people have forgotten that. I think some, not all, have not taken in consideration that Christ's style of talking was all about, was really parables. Parables are meant to get your brain thinking and working things out, and they may not always be in what you'd think a sensible thing. It may come out in a witty form as well. And the other thing we have also learned now, that the scriptures was written as a mathematical construct. So if we take these 2 factors together, bear these 2 factors in mind, we will see that, yes, there was a parable to that. When Christ says, remember, the word remember is that which I really want to really have break down. But remember is really saying to re-establish, to replace, to release, to replenish, to reform, to all these are meaning to re-register, to register as well, to get that contract, renew that contract. It's a renewal. To remember is to really have a renewal. This is why Paul often spoke about the renewal of minds. He really was trying to encourage the disciples and others to renew their minds and die daily of that which no longer serves you, to build or shed of old skin and build new skin. So that's what Paul was really talking about. That coincides with the parable again. Would you have put new wine in an old skin, or old, or something to that effect? And now I am really understanding this. It's basically saying you need to shed all that which no longer serves you, have a detox to acquire the new skin, so that you can recognize that newness. So if you have something new in an old cover, in an old package, you ideally or immediately would activate your senses around your relationship with the old thing that you have. So basically, every time you see the oldness, the old, what you consider as old, but your relationship, of course, that's what makes it old, because it's the relationship you have with it, on the constant meaning that you have attributed to that thing, which makes it old. So every time you look at it, you are identifying with the same oldness or the same state. And that's why we are called to renew our minds and put that new wine in a new skin. So basically you are able to make new meaning each time you look at something. You are seeing it from fresh eyes. So that's what we are talking about when Christ really said, each time you break up the bread, that's another thing. Break up the bread. Bread is that which is the M, which, because it is 3. And each time you break of it, because there is a W. Now, 3 is the M, it is 3, it is M, it is E, and it is W. So this is what we call the 8-petal flower. But each time you break of this, that W that you break off, you are now required to rekindle, re-establish, reform this W. It's there you have you. And each time you break free, like free from something, you are identifying now yourself as you, because you have broken from that W, whatever attachment you had here. And so you are now, wherever you are getting into, you are forming a new relationship. You are now creating a W with whatever or whoever. You are now W, because we are always in that W, or often. This is what we're about. We break free. This is what it means by breaking free. Free is freedom. The number 3 actually equals freedom, but you are breaking free and you are reforming. We are in this constant mode of breaking and forming. Now that's what the disciples were again being asked to do. But of course we have it in this free format, which is where Christ made this agreement, or had this agreement with, he had an agreement, because it sounds like this disagreement, like with D, but he had an agreement, or they came to an agreement saying, okay, every time you break of this bread equals free, because the breaking was to re-establish the breaking of the old, in fact the word old I think is 9. Let's just see. OLD. So this is 6, 10, it's 13. So there we are. This is the 13 every time. So there would be, you are constantly trying to get into a 13, or having a 13. So every time you break, they would come to this agreement of, but this is the agreement, and that agreement would be what would be broken, or there was a separateness or distinction about its attributes. There they could see Christ, and whether they were in the W, or they could see Christ as the head of the table. But when they agreed, they formed the bee. They formed the beehive. They formed the breast. They formed the buttocks. They formed the bond. They formed the breath, or the breadth of something. That's the bee, that is everlasting. They form that bee, the beehive, as I say, where all that sweetness in agreement lies. They formed the bridge. So they formed a bridge. Now that bridge, of course, we see there is a bridge. We all have a nose bridge, and we could see these two. Okay, if we were to look at perhaps a proper nose hair. Okay, so we could say, oh, this is not a proper nose. I can do a much proper nose to this. Okay. Okay. But they formed, okay, it's the shan't make excuse, but they formed a bridge. The bridge goes up, the bridge to the third eye. So these are things that would be present in that agreement. And so Christ said, each time you do this, each time you break off the bread, each time you drink of the wine, when you break off the bread, remember, meaning you are remembering to really establish that which is strong. By remembering, you are going back to forming that bond. You are reestablishing, you are forming, you are writing or signing on the dotted line again. You are forming that partnership, that brotherhood, which is what they had. Of course, these were his brethren. So you are forming that. And each time you drink of the wine, you are drinking of my blood. This also has a free vibration. So there were two aspects of Christ's, two things or two elements that were very present there in Christ's, the Last Supper. So there was the bread. Of course, in the word bread has reed. It also has red. It also has, well, breed, but it would be two E's. And it has dear, D-E-A-R. So there are lots of words. It also has the word air, E-A-R, and other words. But we can see that, for instance, those words were very present in that, there's 13 minutes. Just all those words were really very present in that agreement, which is what I'm saying. And so you can see with the element of breath, it would be very present, was a new breath was about to happen, because Christ was going into another dimension. Christ was entering the fifth and eighth dimension here, or whatever else dimension you want to call it. That was what was happening here. It would be, in fact, this is the has a numerical value of 9, and this has a numerical value of 3. Of course, 3 plus 9 is 12, and as we have here, but 12, 1 plus 2 is 3. So we can see these are really synchronistic in their own essence. They also, let's see, That's 8 letters. We have 8 letters in the word breathed, and we have 7 letters in the word. So 7 plus 8 is 13. So yeah, that's correct. So 13 letters. We can see how 13 is very prevalent here as well. 13, of course, 1 plus 3 is 4. And we have just been talking about the 13 disciples. Now, this is just how synchronicity works. This is how intuition works here. And this is the language that Mother Eve wants us to understand. But for us to understand it, we have to have this dialogue with Mother Eve on a constant basis, really, so we can get to understand her language and our own vibration, our own makeup, and have the opportunity to see how we reflect that which we have learned on the outward or externally or in our manifestation. Until we do that, it's called the fruits, so to speak. So we can see the fruits. So back to the B. So basically we have 2 B's here, which would be 2 13s. If we added 2 13s together, would give us 26. 2 plus 6 is 8. This is what we have been coming up with consistently in our presentations, the number 8. Now, I just decided, because my main thing when I started doing the presentations was to work with the word remember. And I started these presentations and something else flowed, and I just moved with it. I just moved with it in looking at the first letters of the gods, how many of these letters we have, which I have just completed. The M's, of course, the 2 M's were giving us 8, but we had 8 in another form on the C's and on the S's, but they had been present. Now we have done the B's. We've just done the B's. 2 B's, of course, equals 4. Now, when we do the numerical value for the word 8, it equals 31. 31, we have seen, corresponds with 7 of the months of the year. We have 12 months of the year, where we have 31 days to each month. And I'm going by how I've just remembered it at school. Is 30 days have September, April, June, and November. So we have 4 threes are 12, meaning so of course 12 again, 1 plus 2 is 3. So we see how 3 is very foundational in this sense. It sets the foundation, because when it comes to 4 here, we see if we were to have 3 4s, this is it, which is the 8-petal flower again, which is the M, the 3, the 4, the E, and the W. This is the 8-petal flower. So we have 4 months where we get this. Then we have 7 months where we get 31, which is also, so 7 months. This would be here, 2, 3, and this is why we are now called to have, so there's another W missing, this U here. This is the one we are working on. We are called to work on this one, where Mother Eve says, come, let us make man in our image after our likeness. So we are being called, this is 7, or if whether you wanted to do 7 W's, but this is 31. We are talking about 31. It's the same numerical value. If we do the numerical value for the word 8, as I say, it equals 4. So basically, this is the missing piece that we are meant to be completing. We are meant to come and complete, or have this you, new you. This is why it is when Mother Eve says, let us, this is US, meaning 31. Let us. She requires our attention to be part of this new creation. Okay. I'm just thinking there was something else that we needed to add to this. So we have seen the number 4 is consistent in that foundation that we are meant to represent and also create or acknowledge. There seems to be a very strong a very strong requirement on our part to pay attention to this 4. And as I say, I don't think it is in the way we have learned about the sacrifice table or in the template, not that way, but I believe it is called for us to go within the 12 it could be vertebra, or it could be 12 zodiac signs that we are meant to master. It could be however it is, those, or wherever 13 could be. But it's that when we embody all these attributes of 13, or which is 4, which is foundation, which is in the developmental stage here, this R, it comes under the R as in the word sacrifice, meaning that we are meant to pay attention, as in the letter R, which has a numerical value of 9. Pay attention to how we go through that developmental stage, which brings us into Mother Eve. Mother Eve here, the E, which is also under the waters. This is not by chance. We have been doing these intuitively. The word waters equals 23, which is also 5. And the word revelation also gives us 31 or 13. But it's revealing. We are meant to reveal, uncover. This is why we call the vibration of revelation here to help us. And that's how we are seeing how the gods are operating through us. So here, Mother Eve has called us to be in this developmental stage. We can see it's the 4 points like in the crucifixion here. So it's a crucifixion that we are required to do. Okay. I don't go too much into the meaning of all these, blessed and brave. We can do that another time. I'm just concentrating on these letters. But I think it would be a very good idea to also do that. Thank you for watching. Okay.